Today we are tackling one row of the garden, only one row, nothing more. Usually the momentum builds and I end up doing a lot more than one row, but it doesn't matter. All I'm gonna do is one row. It's a row with onion, fennel, some perpetual spinach, and a borage that self-sowed and just went crazy. Here, come take a look. So this whole area is just an overgrown, tangled mess. And these onions were getting completely destroyed by the borage. So I went in and I topped them, which means that where they were falling over, I cut the tops off. So let's see. You see this one here, how it's doing this? I can come in and just, I would use my knife, but I can also just pluck it off. And then I can use that, that's food. And I'll do this one. I'll do this one. I'll do this one. So instead of topping the entire plant, unless it needs it, I'm just finding the ones that look like this and just pulling them. This should send a little more energy into the plant as it's folding up, and then I have food to use. So these, because they've all just been completely squished by the borage, I'm gonna top all of these. So you can see right here, this poor little onion just totally falling over. This one too. I'm probably gonna try to lift those up a little bit once I get this borage dealt with. Borage is so good for the pollinators. It's beautiful. You do wanna wear gloves though, because it's prickly. Can you see the prickles? I think you can see them on the camera. You see the prickles on this leaf right here compared to this nice smooth leaf, which we'll top while we're here. So some people top their onions always. Some people think that's not something you should do. And so I'm just I'm the middle road typically with stuff like this, where it's like, okay, if it's bent over, I'm gonna go ahead and top it. And so maybe, I don't know, 40% of them will be topped, and then the rest will look like this. You can see they're bulbing up really beautifully down here. Making a shadow, sorry. Right there. If they end up being too much in the dirt, you can come and do this. I believe it's called spooning, because people will use a spoon to do it. Mine have just kind of grown out of the dirt just fine. And then it is time to harvest the fennel, mostly. There's some that are still smaller, but gosh, I'm gonna miss it. Look how beautiful it is. It just added such a dimension to this bed, or this row. It's gorgeous. So I haven't been in the garden like really working for about a week, so there's a lot to do. I've got baby beans coming up. I'll do a full tour soon. The tomatoes look amazing. Dave's gonna come out and actually help me lower this panel so that these tomatoes, they're starting to vine on the ground, and they will get septoria because we are famous for septoria here. This is a coreopsis. And so remember I said I was planting flowers, and I'm trying to plant all perennials as much as possible on the ends of the rows. So down here in this walkway, at the end of each one, there's a flower, even though it may not manifest until next year, because sometimes perennials take a couple years. I also have some calendula there. This was the walkway before. So the walkway was right here, and I had the sorrel on one side of the walkway and the coreopsis on one side of the walkway, so you can kind of see. So we changed all of that, and these are all now rows. So I just decided to leave those two things because they're really beautiful. have a nice full basket. I've got some fennel in there. I've got my green onion tops. I have some of the Tong Ho big leaf flowers for a salad we're making tonight to bring to friends. And then this area looks so much better. I'll walk through the whole row once I get it cleaned up. But these, basically, if you saw me, I ran my hands like this over here, and I was just looking for the ones that were just gonna bend right away, and those I went ahead and took. So there's one right there. I'm gonna take that one, but the other ones are nice and strong. And so some of them are cut, and some of them are still growing nice and tall and strong. And for me, like, if you can use this as food, why wouldn't you use this as food? Because it's gonna die, it's gonna go brown, it's gonna fall over and go brown. And so if I can get extra food out of a crop, why wouldn't I do that? But I get plenty by just using the ones that bend, because I can come out here pretty much at any time and grab the bent ones. I don't know if that's helpful or not. I just kind of made that up. Kind of, you know, like I said, finding the middle, because some people say, no, don't do it. And some people are like, of course, do it. Always do it. It's the best way to grow big onions. So I think you always have to just find your own way. And if I notice that the ones that have been mostly topped are growing better than the ones that haven't been, then I would certainly say, okay, well, I think that maybe I should just go ahead and top them all. So it's just, you know, it's one of those things where I don't believe that I'm doing anything wrong. I'm just learning as I go. Okay, so let's take a look at this row now. You can see my hollyhock is here, and then the onions just look so much more beautiful and tame. This whole row just looks a little more tame. There's probably a few more fennel that I could harvest today, but mostly I wanted to make sure that I was weeding and getting these onions a little bit topped. So now you can see the parsley. I put in a squash where there was a gap here where I pulled a fennel the other day, and that fennel will be coming out, so then you'll be able to see this whole area really nicely. And then the borage got majorly cut back. It was literally all over. You can see how these onions are all growing super funny because the borage was crushing it. So that had to be rectified. This is self-sown. I did not put a borage in the middle of my onion patch, but and then I've got what was that? I don't exactly know what that was. That is seeded. It's hard to save seeds on things you don't know what they are. I'm not even gonna guess. It's either a perpetual spinach or a lettuce. So I'm just gonna go ahead and let that one dry out a little bit, and then I'll hang it upside down and I'll save the seeds from it, because regardless of what it is, I liked it. And then I've got more perpetual spinach here. I've got more fennel, but these are nice and tiny. These were the second succession planting of fennel. And then these onions at the very end, this was a little experiment to see how they did if I planted multiple onions together. So most likely we're gonna have little baby onions, little salad onions, and that's just fine. So I've got to get this harvest basket inside now, because if you are harvesting in the heat of the day, it doesn't last outside very long. I am so grateful for this little tunnel. This is my peace away from the sun. And I can it's also become really buggy. I have to admit, this one area has become very buggy because we've got the wetlands right behind us. And even though that has been incredible for having like this incredible ecosystem, we've got frogs and snakes and you name it, we have it here. It does get pretty buggy early in the day. So I had, in my head I was gonna do this big harvest day. And then I realized if I did that, I was gonna get so overwhelmed by how much food came in and having to deal with it and having to find space for it, that I decided that it was such a blessing in disguise that I wasn't able to do that. So I got my garlic done. Today I've got my onion tops and some fennel. I've got some perpetual spinach in there. I'm gonna make some fritters. And then I'm gonna come out and probably do the next wave of harvesting will be the turnips. I have the peas to do again, like literally again. And then I have to plant. I have so many things to plant. I have more squash to plant. I have leeks to plant, onions to plant, lettuce to plant, squash to plant, potatoes to plant. I'd like to plant more calendula. I'd like to plant more zinnias. I'd like to plant cosmos because none of my cosmos, my white cosmos, none of them survived. What else? I'll have to harvest cabbage and broccoli soon. I've got cilantro that needs to be harvested. So it's just like a lot, and it's all in my head. And then all those gaps need to be filled. So I always have something growing out on the stairs. There's always something in the trays ready to be put into the garden. Oh, peas, of course. Peas, not peas. I have beans to replace the peas. So those are all growing, cowpeas and long beans, and that will be like super cool in this tunnel. So I am gonna have to take the peas down, which is gonna be hard, but it shouldn't be too long. Beans will grow really fast in this heat. All right, friends, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you. Bye.